And I'll disappear now.
Galaxies, his home now. Helmets for the young ones, safety is the aim now. Traffic streets are busy, Peter's keeping steady. Empire needs protection, kids riding like ready. Peter saved the riders, glowing in the stars. Galactic guardian, protecting near and far. Programs revived and new, Peter's leading crew, teaching kids to ride safe, Empire proud and true. Through the starry night, Peter shines so bright. Helmets on their heads, guardians take flight.
I was waiting for Peter to realize that that's a Star Wars Cops song that I put through AI. He's dancing along in the background, totally oblivious to the fact that was a kind of Star Wars copy thing that I said I need a modern song about the Star Wars cop Peter who joined traffic services to help bring helmets to young riders and revive programs and protect the Empire. So, yeah. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday Ask a Traffic. It's the Tuesday Ask a Traffic Cop show where we answer your traffic and police questions right here on the internet. It's kind of a thing. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff every single day. And joining me with a new microphone is Peter DeQuintal, a Star Wars cop. He is in another room because there's just can't have this much greatness in one place. Anyway, we are talking about a bunch of stuff and things, and we're going to start off by discussing very quickly where Vision Zero is today and what Vision Zero is. A lot of people confused about this concept. Some people have accused it of being zero vision, but I say nay. It is an amazing concept that suggests that we could actually get to zero fatalities, zero people being hurt on our roads. Because while we acknowledge that minor collisions are going to happen, the ones that lead to serious injury and death are totally preventable and totally unacceptable. So what do we do? How do we do it? Well, we focus on the big four. We're looking for those who choose to engage in speeding, distracted driving, aggressive driving, and of course, impaired driving. Those are choices drivers make that are unsafe. They're unacceptable. You shouldn't do it. We, of course, here talk about the education half, but we have folks who go out into the divisions. They're called Division Zero Enforcement Team, and they go and change driver behavior one ticket at a time. Today, they're spending time in 22 Division and 41 Division. So if you're going to be there and you don't want to meet them, don't break the law. Simple as that. Yeah. I always find it shocking that people get upset that they get tickets. If you don't break the law, you don't get tickets. That's what happens. You get tickets if you break the law, not the other way around. If you're watching us, you're probably on one of these channels. We're currently broadcasting on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and X. And of course, X, which thank you for the reminder, needs to be retweeted because we can't broadcast directly on X right now. So let me retweet that so that it's also on, yes. Perfect. We're now retweeted onto the traffic services account. You have to have a premium account as of July 14th in order to do video on X. I have it, and the service doesn't yet. Anyway, what else can I tell you? Oh, if you are not able to stay for the entire episode, we totally get it. You got stuff and things to do. But you can go back and synchronize this episode, as with all of our previous episodes, onto your telephone or any other device so you can listen on the go without burning your data or breaking the law. Because if you're listening to an audio version of this while you're driving, it's legal. If you're watching this while you're driving, that is bad. $615 ticket is what you're eligible for if you are driving whilst distracted, specifically with a handheld communication device, handheld entertainment device, or with a screen visible to driver. And people get really confused. Well, how come I can look at my air conditioning system on my Tesla with a 15-inch, MacBook screen on it, and that's legal? Well, it is and it isn't. You can adjust your chair, your heated butt warmer or your air conditioning. That you can do on your 15-inch infotainment system. But if you're so focused on it that you are it's negatively impacting your driving, well, that does make it illegal. And careless driving charges could be the result. But it's not an instantaneous touch the screen and get a ticket, where that is exactly what the case is for handheld communication device. So whether you are just picking up the phone to look at the clock, or you're picking up the phone to choose your music or skip to the next song, that's illegal, and you shouldn't do it. You know that impaired driving and distracted driving have a lot of similarities. In fact, I've had people pulled over and and I say had people. I was on my way home. I had someone pulled over. I was convinced was drunk, but they were just using their phone as they, were weaving in and out of traffic, crossing lines on both sides. I thought for sure impaired arrest was going to happen, and was actually disappointed when it didn't, because they weren't drunk. They were just on their phone. Disappointing. I do like the arrests. I like arresting people for breaking the law. What can I say? I'm just an old school guy. We're going to talk in about a half an hour about employment opportunities, because I'm curious to see if they posted anything else. The current posting, aside from police constable, is that of the fine folks at communications. They're the magical people who answer the phone when you call 911, and also on the other side of the house, dispatch officers to respond to those calls that are created on the phone call taker side of it. Anyway, if you want to apply for a job with the Toronto Police, that job is a non-uniform position. And of course, we're also hiring for police officers, but we'll talk about that in a little ways away. I see that, that's weird. A bunch of stuff was already flagged. So here's the deal. As long as TikTok keeps working and with Restream, I'm going to simply stay in the overlay, flagged comments section, other than hellos. And I do see that we've got some hellos of good morning from Stephen Bell out in London Way. Tim Shallow says, good morning, Sean. Julie Massey says, good morning, Sean, and everyone out there. Always like that you include the rest of the audience. Thank you so much. Paul says, good morning, Sean. Hello to all. Again, appreciating that you appreciate everybody else here. AJ has questions that are tagged. We'll get you in a second. Gavin, who thinks he's cool, texting and driving. Don't, Gavin, because you're going to hurt somebody, and that somebody could be yourself. But not cool. Not even funny, really. Why did I acknowledge you? I don't know. All right, let's get back into stuff that is flagged for my attention by our moderator, the Star Wars Cop. AJ says, my sister is moving away for 1 year. Does she need to put me on her car registration? Does she need to put you on it? So she's moving away and she's leaving the car behind. You don't have to own the car to drive the car. You do need to be on an insurance policy to make most insurance providers happy, because you live with that person. The vehicle's registered to that address. So you're more than an occasional, or I'm loaning my buddy the car for an hour kind of situation. The insurance companies will want you to be insured. That's an insurance problem. From the police perspective, you are a licensed driver who is qualified to drive that class of vehicle, and you have permission of the owner, and the vehicle is insured. You are okay to drive it. So we're not going to give you a hard time driving the car as long as you have proof of insurance, proof of registration, and your license. But you could get into problems in the event that you were to, get into a collision. They could choose not to cover you. So that's not a good thing. Insurance is important. Whether we like paying it or not, it's important. One of my favorite questions is, do cops have quotas to meet for tickets? And the answer is no, we don't. Doesn't matter. Like, we don't have to do 100 a day. I would always have a personal goal of, 1 million. Listen, we go out there and in seconds we see offenses. There's no shortage of them. People are breaking the law left, right, and center. And I think the big thing that people suggest quotas do is create an urgency to write meaningless tickets that aren't important. But all tickets are important. If you break a rule, all rules should be enforced. It shouldn't be that we only enforce some, because they're really important, but the other ones not so important. Because I have no problem with quotas. In fact, I would suggest that quotas are a good thing. Like, if you said to me, how would you suggest officers rule their day? Okay, if you have calls that you're attending, whatever that call goes, ticket, no ticket, doesn't matter, that would be cool with me. But if you're doing nothing, what should you do? You should write a ticket. In fact, if you have an hour of nothing and you're not doing other work, I would suggest maybe a ticket an hour, maybe 4 tickets an hour. I don't know. What's reasonable? I'd support that. But that doesn't mean you have to make up offenses. I don't have to pull people over for not breaking the law. That doesn't happen. There's so many people breaking the law that there would be an abundance. So let me know what you think of that, because I'm sure people don't like the idea. But I don't know why people are offended by quotas. Even though we don't have them, I don't think they're a bad thing. We are responsible for doing our work, right? We work for we're a government employee, essentially. We need to, be responsible with how we spend government money. Yeah. Is it illegal to have your brake lights at the back of your car darkened? No news talk today, Peter. Thought about it, but didn't do it. We'll be back after vacation. By the way, next week I'm on vacation, so no news talk today. We did it last week, and we'll do it when we come back. So is it illegal to have your brake lights at the back of your car darkened? Your vehicle's brake lights need to be discernible at 150 meters. Discernible is kind of this question that, what does it mean? People get confused. I need to be able to see that your brake is either activated or simply on the glowy low mode. I have to be able to discern between the two modes at 150 meters. And that's entirely up to the officer. So if you darken it, not only are you creating clues for the insurance company to deny you a claim, because if you get rear-ended and you had tinted brake lights, could it be more your responsibility than it was if you had stock lights that were not modified? Now, you cannot at all tint your front headlights. That's absolutely illegal. The rear ones, there's some gray area because you may have upgraded your bulbs to be brighter, and it is discernible at 150 meters. My suggestion is don't mess with something that works. The car looking cool, it's bravado, it's cool factor, it's fashion, it's not safety. Safety is what's important, so don't mess with stuff that keeps you from being rear-ended and possibly impacting your insurance, because they can deny you for just about anything. Let's see here. Is the process easy when pleading guilty to a ticket over a Zoom court call? Well, if you're pleading guilty, okay, there's a number of reasons why people plead guilty in court versus in person or by simply paying the ticket. But Zoom court is pretty simple. I've attended a number of trials by way of Zoom court. It's like being there in person. You get an opportunity to speak to a prosecutor, and they'll potentially give you and offer you a deal if you're pleading guilty to save the court a trial. That's a possibility. Not a guarantee, but it's certainly an opportunity. I'm going to just unplug my Mac because you don't need to hear my text messages from Aaron Urquhart saying, tomorrow she'll be on the show. That's what's going to happen. But that's what the beep was. It was Aaron saying, tomorrow she'll be on the show. What else? Now, if you've already asked for a court appearance or a trial, know that you also have an option, although you may have already chosen the court. If you didn't choose the court, you have an option for a first appearance, and that's where you have a meeting with a prosecutor in advance where they can offer you a deal, and if you don't like that deal, then go to court. So you do have some options. First appearance with the prosecutor, court, or simply paying the ticket is what you get to choose from. Can I drive after 12 a.m. with a G2 license? Yes, you can. You do have a restriction in the first year as to how many people under the age of 20 you can have in the vehicle with you between midnight and 5 a.m., but you can drive. There's no restrictions. So at least time of day driving, no restrictions. G1 cannot drive between midnight and 5 a.m. G2 can drive, but they in the first 6 months can only have one person under the age of 20 in their vehicle between midnight and 5 a.m. After the second 6 months, they can have up to 3 people under the age of 20. But if the person is an immediate family, there's no restrictions other than the number of seatbelts in your motor vehicle. So if you had brothers, sisters, and so on, you could bring them legally. All right. Good morning. Can you explain if speeding tickets have changed with the new 401 speed? It's not the new 401 speed. Sections of the 401 and 404, 400 series highways have been raised permanently to 110 kilometers an hour. That is not the entire road. It's just the portions that are signed that way. And I just came back from Michigan this weekend, and I was traveling in a number of those 110 zones. I was also passed like I wasn't moving, doing 110. So this concept that if we give you a higher speed limit, people will actually start following the law is baloney. People will still do whatever they want. However, I couldn't speak to whether or not they're issuing more or less or what, because I don't work for the Ontario Provincial Police, who actually patrol those highways and enforce the rules there. So I can only tell you that speeding is still illegal. Yeah. And stunt driving still occurs at 150 kilometers an hour, even though that's only 40 kilometers over 110. And we talked about that yesterday a bit. The deal being that 150 anywhere qualifies for stunt driving. Let's see. If someone is 17 driving and had a non-open bottle of liquor, what is the consequence? Nothing. If it's stored appropriately, we had a discussion with Sergeant Campbell about storage because we disagree on things on a regular basis. So we discussed them. And, if it's sealed from factory, it can be stored anywhere in the motor vehicle. The rules about purchasing alcohol are different than transporting it. You can transport alcohol, maybe not in a licensed establishment, but you could certainly have a bottle of wine in your car sealed from factory, and there's nothing illegal about it. To my knowledge, nothing illegal. All right. What kind of vehicles do traffic constables drive? I know in Hamilton they have a stealth livery. This is a good question. So we have a number of vehicles. Generally speaking, we have Ford Explorers, fully marked vehicles, because we're not really we're doing collision investigation. We're doing Highway Traffic Act stuff. We do have some unmarked vehicles. They're completely unmarked. Not stealth. Stealth was a tone-on-tone stickers. We don't have those anymore. We used to have them. I thought they were great. I'm not aware of them being in the fleet anymore, but we do have some completely unmarked vehicles, and those are used primarily by the folks with Vision Zero enforcement team. Yes, they're great. We have some pickup trucks, some SUVs. We have a bunch of stuff, and but there's no livery. It's just a vehicle. And apparently the chat coming in from TikTok is no worky. So let me see if I can fix that, because sometimes the chest compressions on the chat work. Going into settings, going into this, pressing relay mode, refreshing. Let me know if that changes. It's possible it'll come back. It's also possible that we're just going to get a big dump of messages coming through all at once. If you're watching on Instagram, know that I have been totally ignoring you, because I just looked over now and I see that Crystal said hi. Let's see here. But yes, the best place to come is to YouTube or actually YouTube is simply youtube.TrafficCop.ca. Will take you right to our channel. And that is the best way to be with stability, ask us questions. We know it works all the time. Okay. And with that answer, this, hopefully did it come back, Peter, to start working? Possibly, maybe. It is working. It's back up. Cool. Have you ever pulled someone over for speeding who is actually in labor? No, I haven't. We're talking about having a baby, contractions and all that jazz. I've never pulled anybody over who was doing that. I can tell you what I would do is I would call an ambulance. I would have an ambulance attend and take over, because that person who is speeding in a high-stress situation may not ever make it to the hospital, or may cause a collision and become a victim, and then put many lives at risk, not only other drivers on the road, but the people in that car and the baby that's yet to be born. So 911 or a radio dispatch to have an emergency vehicle, an ambulance attend. And I can tell you that my partners and people I've worked with have delivered babies at the side of the road. So while I'm not really looking for that opportunity, many people have done that because baby was coming. And I understand the panic of wanting to get to the hospital. When my wife and I had our first, we stayed at home as long as possible. And that was all, in conjunction with knowing what was going on and having a plan. And then I drove casually to the hospital when it was the right time. And there were people, well, I won't get into the details, but there were people there who were screaming their heads off that it was it was time, and they were panicking, and they were there for hours. They weren't even close to being ready. We got there and we had a baby. But we didn't drive in a crazy way, because we were prepared mentally, I think, for it. And at least I was. I wasn't giving birth. My wife was. She had all the responsibility there. I just had to drive safely. Anyway, moving on. By the way, shout out to my wife who produced magical babies. Let's go here. Okay. Mechanic Megan says, licensed diesel mechanic, 310T. Am I allowed to operate a tractor trailer only for a road test? Are you asking me? Or you are asking for specific fault, or can I operate for any reason if I have a work order? Shunting unit. Don't know what a shunting unit is. My understanding is that you have the ability of testing these things, but I don't know. I'm the worst person to ask about commercial motor vehicles stuff. You're a diesel mechanic, but you don't have your the proper license to operate. I don't know, and I'd like to find out. Do me a favor, Megan. Can you go to TrafficCop.ca and submit a form? It says "Ask me a question." I will forward that to our truck inspectors because I don't want to get you in trouble. I don't want to tell you you can do something when you can't. I think you can do certain things, but you know what? Even if it's not going to get you off the ticket if you get a ticket for it. So let's make sure and get you the right information. TrafficCop.ca. It says, "Ask me a question." Send me that email. I will get back to you by way of forwarding the question to the folks who can answer it and getting you the most correct answer. Yes. All right. Are plate covers now illegal, even if the plate number is completely readable? Ricky wants to know. Ricky, they've always been illegal, whether you can see them or not. You cannot cover your license plate at all whatsoever. Can't put a frame around it. Can't put a complete lens over it. It can't happen. Now, I've never pulled anybody over for one that was completely legible because it's completely legible and it wouldn't have even been on my radar. What I did pull over on a regular basis was dirty or the ones that weren't optically correct, that were hard to read. I pulled them over all the time. Now, I usually started with, "Hey, you can take that off and avoid this ticket. Just take it off right now." I offered them a screwdriver, and we solved a lot of problems that way. And then attitude determined whether it was a ticket, because if you told me to go fly a kite, I just issued the ticket. But I gave most people the opportunity to remove that. If it was completely blacked out, tinted, it wasn't something that was just like it was a clear one that was an oversight, or it was a little bit hard to read because it got dirty or sun bleached. If it was tinted, you probably got a ticket. But it depended on the way the wind blew. Now, usually it was a warning or an opportunity to change it. But they are completely illegal, but generally not enforced unless it's a problem. Okay, my plates don't show numbers or letters. What do you mean my plates don't show numbers or letters? I do not understand your question. Do you mean like all the numbers and letters are peeled off? Because that happens and you're responsible for that. If it's not legible, you are going to get a ticket, $110. And to this user who says, "Canadian Tire sells plate covers, must be legal." Just because they sell a piece of unregulated plastic does not mean it's legal. They have nothing to do with the legal system. They sell you stuff you want. And I remember for the longest time, if maybe things have changed, on the back of the packaging, it says, "Not for road use," as a hint. Now, they sell stuff because people will buy stuff, but it's not the plastic that is regulated. It's the license plate. The license plate has rules as to how you can use it. The piece of plastic is irrelevant. You block your license plate, you're getting a ticket because your license plate has rules and you need to comply with those rules. What if the dealership itself put them on? They put them on private property. You drove it on the street, and that makes you responsible for driving with a license plate frame that's covering a portion of the plate or a license plate cover. It's you, the driver, who's responsible. A lot of attention on license plates. I'm amazed. I'm shocked. I'm not that shocked. It's a really common question. Yeah, if you're driving on the road, whatever it is, even if you borrowed the car from a friend, even if it's a company car, even if it's a rental car, if the plate is obstructed, you are eligible for the ticket. If the license plate is dirty, you are eligible for the ticket, and so on and so forth. Brittany wants to know if it's illegal to ride a motorcycle without turn signals, without front turn signals. Yeah, you need. For safety, it needs to be there. Do they need to exist? You can use hand signals. Like, you don't have to use the signal. Does it have to be there? That's a really good question. I'm going to assume they need to be there for the certification. If you had a classic vehicle, they don't always have signals. So to suggest that you can't be on the road without them, bicycles don't need them. I don't know 100%. Let's look at the Book of Knowledge. I will do a quick little lookup to see if there is the thing is, if you fail to signal, it's a charge, but not to have signals. So let's just iron this one out. Highway Traffic Act, signal. Use lamp producing, no. Use lamp, no directional signals. Every motor vehicle or combination of motor vehicles in the trail. Oh, this is for being over a certain size. So if you are in excess of 2.05 meters or having a length in excess of 6.1 meters, you must have mechanical or electrical signaling devices that comply with subsections 142, 6, and 8. Okay. Looking for something. Oh, 142. That's fairly, yeah, no. That's, so it doesn't look like you have to have them unless you meet the grade for a particular size vehicle. That said, not signaling with a hand signal could get you into a ticket. I got to tell you, though, I would suggest having signals. Whether you use them or not is up to you, but I would have them. Sorry, let me rephrase. It's not up to you. You have to signal by way of hand or the electric ones. But why would you want to have one that doesn't have one? Like, anyway. What was my best day at Toronto Police Service? There have been so many good ones. I don't have a best day. I enjoy coming to work every single day. I've been having a lot of fun recently because my buddy showed up, and now we talk Star Wars stuff. But getting my badge was a great day. Graduating was a great day. Getting my motorcycle courses and being a rider, for the police service, a great day. Like, there's so many, helping people. There's been a lot of dark days too. I've seen a lot of death and destruction and sad, tragic stories that I now they're part of me. So for all the good, there's bad, but there've been a lot of good. I just don't have a best day story. Peter, do you have a best day story? Oh, we'll give you a second to prepare.
So I did say your best day story was meeting me as the moderator, but maybe not. Maybe not. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
He
I would say definitely earning your badge is a big deal.
But I'm assuming it's the after the badge, because I very clearly, there was a big proud moment. I'd always wanted to be a cop, and I became one. But there's been so many like feel good moments where you help someone who that needed help. You were there. You made a difference in someone's life in a positive way, obviously, because we arrest people and it's not so positive for them. But it is positive for society when we arrest people sometimes. The person that you're saving from, you're putting someone in handcuffs, but you're helping the person that was victimized by them. So there's so many different levels of happiness and good stuff. But I got to ponder it. I got to think about it. Maybe we'll do a special best of memories show. I wasn't prepared for that. Can someone with a G2 use a GPS within CarPlay? Yeah, there's no restriction as to the type of license you have in Ontario, although I've heard other jurisdictions do have very strict differences between a learner's permit and or a graduated licensing person and a fully licensed person. But in Ontario, yeah, you can use your GPS. You can use it on your phone if the phone is mounted, even without CarPlay, although I suggest CarPlay is a great option if you have it. Yeah, just don't touch it or modify it once you've set it in GPS mode. So set it and forget it on private property, and then when you're driving, you're legal to look at it. But that's all you're legal to do. You can't touch it. If I'm a person blocking traffic, is that impeding traffic? Like a physical pedestrian standing in the way? So is that impeding traffic? No, that's I think interfere with traffic. Let's have a look at the. I've charged a number of pedestrians before, but I don't think interfere with traffic was the one. Interfere. Let's see here. Toll system. Willfully no. Interfere with snow removal. Interfere with traffic. Despite the other provisions of this section, no person shall park or stand a vehicle on a highway in such a manner as to interfere with the movement of traffic or the clearing of snow from the highway. But that is not pedestrian. So let me look for other things here. No, so that's a motor vehicle charge. So it wouldn't be that. And I think there's some bylaws that this would be falling under. That would be City of Toronto specific, and it would be different for others. Let's see here. Pedestrian. That's equipment, rules of the road. No, it wouldn't be. If you're standing there, I'm going to say no. That's a motor vehicle charge. Although I'd have to look up the Toronto specific bylaw, because that's what I think it falls under. Generally speaking, not something I've dealt with. I've never really found people just wandering in the road. Now, Peter, have you ever found what have you done? Other, because I usually just escort people off the road. Let's see. I'll come back to this if we find anything. Oh, he's lost in the time. All right. Boxers or briefs? Is that even a question anymore? Well, it's boxers. I just think that's the way to go. It's comfort, it's breathing. Okay. Are there any rules on how low your car can be? Yeah, but so there's for certification purposes, there's maximums and minimums in terms of, well, actually it's more than certification because your vehicle becomes unsafe at that point. So there's a maximum and minimum height that your center of your headlights can be from the road, which is something that was new to me a couple years ago when a member of the MTO explained it to me because I'd never looked at that before. It's in the light truck and passenger vehicle inspection guide. But from the perspective of a police officer at the side of the road, we pull you over. We're going to check to see if you have body rub, tire to body rub, or tire to frame rub. Evidence that's usually left on the tires. So if you're making contact, that's an unsafe motor vehicle because of the modifications and the way that it's riding. You've cut the springs, you've lowered it, it's not functional. And of course, if your suspension doesn't function, it's like riding on the rubber, what's it called, stoppers. That's not safe for the road either. So we're looking at that. We're not looking at ride height per se. We're looking at the consequences of your modifications. Oh, let's try it one more time. Press the button too quick. Would you still ticket someone if you suspected DWI, but they blew under 0.08? Well, if they were 0.05 to 0.079, it's not a ticket, it's a suspension. And you don't ticket someone for 0.08, you arrest them and you charge them. But now, the way it works on the side of the road is I'm going to pull someone over. If I have reason to believe that they're impaired by drugs or alcohol, I'm going to make a demand that they come with me to a qualified breath technician, and I'm going to have them evaluated by them, not me. If I don't know if they've got enough to be over the 80 or 80 and above, then I'm likely going to have them blow in a box called a roadside screening device. That's because I think they have alcohol in their system, but I don't know if they have enough. But I've not reached the point where I think they're impaired. So I might have them blow into the box. And if it's 0.5 to 0.079, they are going to lose their license for 3 days. If they've had a worn range reading within 10 years, they're going to get a 7-day roadside suspension. But that's not an arrest. Again, if they fail, that means it's over 80 or 80 and over. They're going to get arrested. They're going to go do another 2 samples back at the station or where their breath technician is. And based on the outcome of those tests, they're going to be charged. And they're going to get, their driver's license is going to be taken, and they're going to lose their vehicle for 7 days. And of course, it starts criminal proceedings. Now, if the results were that they were under 80, they wouldn't be charged at that point. Now, it's also possible that drugs are involved. If I think drugs are part of it, if there's no indication of alcohol, or if they say they haven't had any alcohol, but they're acting in such a way that makes me believe they have drugs in their system, we have drug recognition evaluators, and they can, based on tests and that they get people to participate in, which are you're legally required to participate in, they can figure out what drugs they're in, and the outcome of their testing will essentially have the same response. They can lose their license and so on. And yeah, so that's the answer there. So depends. What is this? What makes an infotainment system different than a mounted smartphone? One is an infotainment system and one is a phone. That's what makes it the different. So either could result in careless. And when the law first came out, quite frankly, the careless charge was more serious than the distracted driving charge. I believe that it was 125 when distracted driving was first brought into the game. And that was to be lesser than the careless. Careless is 6 points, 495. So the impact of a distracted driving charge would be $125, no points. But it didn't change the behavior. So they raised it and raised it. I think it went to 125 to 150 or 170, and eventually it's now 615, carries 3 demerit points, a 3-day suspension on conviction. So you can see how it's the game is being raised. Well, you can still get a charge for the infotainment system, but it's the careless driving charge. It's based on your driving behavior, not simply touching it. Whereas the phone is touching it or using it or displaying something other than GPS. So I hope that answers your question. It's different because it's different. Are you a real traffic officer as opposed to a fake traffic officer? I'm a police officer. I happen to have a specialty in traffic, and I work at Traffic Services, which is the Toronto Police unit that handles citywide traffic investigations and enforcement for traffic-related stuff. So, yeah, I'm a real traffic officer. Mind you, I'm no longer on the road. I was injured in a motorcycle collision a number of years ago, and as a result, have not been back to regular duties. Oddly enough, I found my home in programs, safety programs, which is where we do education and now social media outreach. So, yeah, it's a thing. Okay, I'm planning on modding my new car for more turbo noises. Is that regulated? Depends. Are you going to have a blow-off valve? Or like where you get that nice psst sound or sound like Fast and the Furious, and that's having gases escape prior to your exhaust system? Yeah, I think it's like a $600 or $800 fine. It used to be covered under the Environmental Protection Act, but that's now being written into the HTA. So let me see if I can find the nice charge. Modification. Maybe it's under environmental. Where's it going to be under? Because it moves equipment. Oh, exhaust. Modification? No. Where'd they put it? I can't figure out the wording. I've never laid it. It's still me getting used to it, but it is there, and I think it's $600 or $800. It's a no fun. So be careful as to what things you do. More noise is not good. I can tell you right off the bat, if you're making the vehicle noisier, expect a $110 fine for unnecessary noise. But I do like the sound that the blow-off valves make. It just happens to be that they're allowing gases to not be cleaned and restricted in advance of the exhaust system, and that is not legal. Yeah. All right. What is this one? If I'm doing 80 and someone's tailgating me and I slow down to 50, is that a smart thing to do or not? Well, what's the speed limit? Is 80 the speed limit? I happen to reduce my speed when people tailgate me. I do it very gently and very slowly, but I'm also in the right lane, giving them lots of opportunities to pass me on the left. If you were to hit the brakes aggressively, that's brake checking, and that is stunt driving. It's also super dangerous and not smart. But if you were just, relaxing on the gas a little bit, they're not supposed to be that close to you, and they should make alternative plans. But just because I do it and I think it's the appropriate thing to do doesn't mean it's the right thing, because it could escalate things. Definitely getting out of their way is the number one thing to do. What do you think, Peter? What is the best way to handle a tailgater if you're doing the limit?
Move to another lane.
So you should be in the right lane anyway. Left lane is actively passing. And if you're just doing the speed limit, not actively passing, you should be in the right lane. Why should you move out of the way for the people who are speeding? Because they do stupid things if you don't. It's not because it's lawful to speed. It's because speeders tend to make really bad decisions that are unsafe for everybody. All right. Can a 17-year-old with a G2 drive to Buffalo, New York alone? That's up to your parents, the owner of the vehicle, if it's your vehicle. But the answer is absolutely yes, they can. You can, if you have a passport, if you have the lawful ability to cross the border. That's not my department. But a G2 driver can drive anywhere. The license is accepted anywhere that anywhere a G is. However, you must follow all the conditions of a G2, which means no alcohol, and you have those restrictions between midnight and 5 a.m. as to the number of people under the age of 20 in your vehicle. And of course, you can have no more people in the vehicle than you have seatbelts for. So those conditions still apply in the States, but you can certainly drive there. Okay. We have if the maximum speed limit is 100, what is the minimum speed limit? Well, there is no minimum posted. Like, unfortunately, I wish there was. In Quebec, they do post a minimum, and it makes sense. It makes things very clear and understood. In Ontario, you can't drive unnecessarily slow, which means that you can't, for no other reason than you want to. For the reason of I want to drive slow, you can't impede traffic. So if there was a reason like it's icy, slippery, sandy, there's ducks on the in front of you, whatever the case is, you can drive reasonably for the conditions. But it's not as simple as I'm going to go 60 because I want to. You're impeding traffic and it's unsafe at that point. So you should be driving at a reasonable speed, and you should, of course, if you're driving slower than the speed limit or than the path of traffic, stay to the right. Flow of traffic, not path of traffic. But flow of traffic is not an excuse to speed. No one's allowed to go above the speed limit. All right. Sensor traffic light, no right turn sign on motorcycle light, but light won't turn from wait. What do I do? It's not actually wait. It's displacing an electromagnetic field. I mean, same difference, I suppose. Some things you can do to prepare yourself for that intersection is adhere or add a rare earth magnet to the bottom of your motorcycle. It's certainly something that I've done in the past. You can turn your bike off if it's safe to do so, and go press the walk signal, trying to trigger the system to change. I've not really had situations where I've completely been unable to change it. I've repositioned, because you can see in the ground where the cutout is. You want to be over the coils to try and trigger that light change, but you can't just simply go through. So that's a difficult situation to be in. We don't have a dead red law where if it's malfunctioning, you can just do what you want. I will say this: if it's the middle of the night and no one's there, you're unlikely to be pulled over for it, but it's not legal, it's not safe. But that's up to you to make that decision. I would do everything in my power to follow the law. That's the suggestion and the lawful thing to do, doing the lawful thing. It is frustrating. I totally get it. Let's see here. Has the speed limit been increased to 110 as seen on the news? Not the entire roadway, but certainly sections of it have been. I don't know. Is there new law, new information suggesting other than that? I've not seen anything. Sections of the highway have been raised, but not all highways. Oncoming traffic signaled left but went straight, honking at me as I turned left. Who's at fault? Well, they may not be so with it, but ultimately, if you turn in front of them and they choose to change their minds, you could both be in a situation. You're responsible to ensure that your left turn can be made in safety. They're responsible to do things that are safe as well. It's a problem. But once the collision occurs, the person turning left is always more responsible than the person going straight, despite their inability to properly communicate their intentions. Yeah. Turning people are going to be charged. And sadly, if you don't have a dash cam, you're going to have a hard time proving that they signaled. And in truth, it could have been someone who would have very much liked to hit you so that they could have a fraudulent claim or a situation where they've created a collision for the purposes of having a fraudulent claim to steal from the insurance companies. That happens too. Chances are they would have actually hit you if that was the case. Okay. Second question: as a shuttle driver for my work, am I allowed to the HOV lane without passengers? When you say shuttle, space shuttle, minivan, bus, if it's a bus, there are provisions to allow buses into HOV lanes, but it has to be the appropriate bus. If you're just talking about you work for a dealership and you've got the company minivan, then no, you don't get any benefits for that. How close is close? You should see their plate in your rearview mirror. Sorry? Wow, what is the context of your question, Dion? Because I don't know from your question. Like, ideally, when you are judging how close someone is in front of you, you should be able to see, the ground. You don't want to be so close that you can't see their plate. That's too close. But I'm not. You're putting it in a weird perspective, suggesting if you can see the plate in the rearview mirror. No, you're judging the person in front of you. You're responsible for what happens there. They are responsible for what happens behind you. But yeah, if ideally you'd like to see someone's plate, but yeah, you should be more focused on what's happening in front of you. But let me know more. Ask away. I'd like to hear how you're and what you're judging. It is 10:47. Just saying. We're going to talk about employment in just a second. But in the meantime, let's see what this question says. Cop stopped me in Mustang giving me license plate cover ticket, which is dealership installed. Yes, that happens because you can't have a license plate cover or frame, even if it was installed by your dealership. It doesn't make it legal. It's always shocking to me, or shocking to people, because they say, well, I didn't put it on. Well, you left it on. I would instruct any dealership not to put it on. If they still argued with me, I would ask them how much money they are giving you for advertising on your vehicle. And even then, they're not paying your ticket, so I take it off. Let's talk employment for a moment. And where's my button? Here's my button. tps.ca/careers. That is how you get to this page to see all the smiling faces, and there's Erin there. You can't even see my mouse. I got my mouse over. No, why isn't that? Anyway, I have my mouse over her nose just because. If you click here, you get the wonderful information about becoming a police officer, police constable role, all the information you should read before asking for a recruiter clarification. Read this page first. And then, of course, you can hit that apply button and start a file online. Now, you can look at other positions. They give details about our uniform positions: special constable, parking enforcement officer, and communications operator is a non-uniform position, but it's a major role, so there's a lot of details about the job there. And, of course, auxiliary officer, that's how I started as a volunteer. Great opportunity. Not currently hiring for it, but good things to know. Lateral hire is for a police officer from another jurisdiction who wants to come work for us. So I don't focus on that much because that's probably not what you're looking for. Civilian roles is the button I love to press because I'm always wondering what kind of new jobs we have posted. And for the last 3 times I've done this, it's been communications operator only. Interesting. There are days when we have 10 positions. So this is something you need to check on a regular basis if you're interested in working, let's say, in IT. As a clerk, there's lots of opportunities. We have mechanics. The big thing is check on a regular basis and apply, or tell your friends who are interested in applying to apply, because it's a great place to work. Truly. 24 years I've been with the Toronto Police Service, and it's been amazing. Whether it be as a volunteer, as a court officer, or as a police officer, it is nice to be part of a great organization like the Toronto Police. And you could join us. Just saying. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Is there a way I can drive my vehicles without having them registered to the government? A lot of people hear about these silliness of freemen of the land. That I don't got to pay nothing. I don't have to have a license, because I'm traveling, not driving. That's baloney. I don't understand where these things come from. However, the only time you can not register your vehicle is if you're driving it on your own private property. If you had a farm and you wanted to drive around in your backyard, you could have an unregistered or an unplated vehicle. You could have a unlicensed driver on private property. You're still not allowed to drink and drive. You can still be arrested. On your lawnmower, you got a riding lawnmower or electric skateboard, you can get charged for impaired driving because it's a motor vehicle according to the Criminal Code of Canada. In terms of not registering it, you still need to register it to have it. You don't even need a license to register it to change the ownership. That's something you have to have. But that's about it. Gonzo, I think your question's been answered. I can't think of anything else to say on that. Let's see here. We got, what reasons are you aware of that people flash high beams on the 401? I don't know. I mean, I assume they're trying to tell you that there's speed enforcement up ahead, that they see police, but I don't know what goes on in the minds of drivers other than my mind. And I don't flash people, so don't know. Buck likes my beard. Thank you. I had it going a lot longer. Actually, I missed having the extra length, but it is more manageable now. Can I overtake on a double yellow or single lane road? So there's no law in Ontario, and we're unique in that we're the only province in Ontario. We're the only province in Canada that doesn't have a law about crossing the line. But you are responsible for everything you do when you cross the line. So even though you might have a magical ability to not get ticketed as long as nothing goes wrong, you're absolutely responsible when something does go wrong. Listen, a yellow line means the traffic on the other side of that line is coming at you. If it's solid, it probably means you have limited visibility, which means your risk is high, which probably will result in your insurance company taking you over the coals, raking you over the coals. They're going to give you a hard time because you did something that led to that collision occurring. With a G2, can you drive with more than one person under 19? If they're your immediate family, well, during the hours of, other than the hours of midnight to 5 a.m., there's no restrictions on that. As long as you have no more persons than you have seatbelts for, you're okay. But between midnight and 5 a.m., there are restrictions for those who are not members of your immediate family. And in the first 6 months, it's up to 3 people, sorry, up to one person, it's one person. And in the second 6 months, you can have up to 3 people who are not members of your immediate family who are under the age of 20. I believe it's 20, not 19 and under, not under 19. Yeah. What can a cyclist do when drivers stop or park in the cycling lane? Well, there's not much for you to do other than pass them safely into the regular lane. Now, they're not supposed to be there. You could pull over and make a report on our website calling, essentially submitting an online form to parking enforcement, and that's an immediate response thing. They'll dispatch someone. But what do you do after you report it? Well, nothing. You go on about your day. Taking pictures in social media is great for shaming them. I'm all for that. But you risk the chance of escalating matters and getting into a punch-up because of a parking dispute. They're doing the wrong thing. There's no question of that. But passing them safely is the right way to proceed. Okay. How long would my suspension stay on my record for unaccompanied driver? It's been 3 years this September. The suspension is the conviction, I think you mean. So 3 years from the date of conviction is when a conviction is removed. Suspensions don't really come and go. They're there. But convictions are there for 3 years from the date of the event, which is different. If you took it to court and you were convicted, the event was in 1 year, you waited 4 years till you were convicted. Or it would be from the time you were convicted. Well, 4 years is an exaggeration, but the point is the same. Points come off 2 years after the date of the offense, and your record or your short, the short flow, the ability for your insurance company to see your conviction, that's for 3 years. We see everything. We pull you over. We'll see from even the time before you were licensed. Let's say you were joyriding in a car at 14, you got charged. There's a conviction, then you got your license when you were 16, we'd still see from your first offense. Do cops pull you over if you go 20 over on a highway? I do. I did, I should say. You're breaking the law. You're breaking the law at 1 kilometer over. It's up to them whether they charge you for 20 or for 19 or for 15. Doing 60 in a 60 kilometer an hour zone, I'd pull you over all day long for 15 over. All day long. It's 25% over the posted limit. I would charge you for 15 over without a hesitation. If you're in a 30 kilometer an hour zone, I'd pull you over all day long for 5 to 10 kilometers over. So highway, meaning, limited access or controlled access highway being an expressway, 20 over, the problem is most people are doing that. We don't pull everybody over. We tend to go for higher speeds. But could you? And do we? On occasion, yeah. I see people posting videos complaining, I got a ticket for 20 over. You're breaking the law. So let's see here. What are the laws on children in the front seat of cars? Thanks. Jordan, here's the deal. Front seat is generally not suggested until you're at least 14 years old. But there's no law preventing children from being in the front seat at any age. The only law is that you must have them in the appropriate child safety restraint, whether that be a rear-facing, front-facing, or booster seat. That's the deal. Now, when a child doesn't need any kind of seat restraint system is when they're either 8 years old, 80 pounds, or 4'9", and that says that they're legally permitted to go with a seatbelt alone, not that it's the safest thing. So I would suggest going to ASKaTrafficCop.ca, or you can also just go to cpsac.org, cpsac.org, and they've got some great resources as to what is safe and when to evaluate you're moving your child, to the front. Aside from the fact that backseat is best until 14, period. That's the safest. But if you're going to do it, and make sure that there's appropriate child safety restraints, that's a great resource. And for making the decision when they're good for seatbelts only, again, a great resource. We got here. DuPont Auto Spa wants to know why why can't you have a beer while driving, but you can have a beer before driving? It's still the same beer. Really? Yeah, you can't have a beer. You can't consume alcohol in a vehicle, whether you're a driver or a passenger. It's just a rule. You can't have access to alcohol while you're driving. I can't argue the nuances. What you're saying, maybe nobody should have any beer at all. We'll just nix beer. I don't have an answer for you. You got to be a responsible adult. Responsible adults don't drink and drive. Yeah, but I like your point. It's interesting the way you phrased it. But if you have one beer, are you good to go? Maybe somebody wouldn't be. Maybe somebody would act a little bit loopy after one. I don't know. Are you allowed to drive intoxicated passengers with a G2? Okay, just to be clear, this question is, if you're a G2 driver, can you have passengers who are impaired by alcohol or drugs? Yeah, you can, assuming you are following your conditions, which means you have no alcohol and you have and the hours which you are operating your motor vehicle don't violate your conditions. For instance, between midnight and 5 a.m., you can only have one person under the age of 19 who isn't your immediate family. So if you're driving your mother, your father, your brother, and they're intoxicated and you're sober, you're legal, regardless of the time. But you can't break any of your conditions just because you're being a safe driver or preventing them. They can take a taxi. You'd be violating your conditions. You could end up with a $110 ticket and a 30-day suspension for breaking a condition. Actually, it's 30 days your first time, 90 days your second time. If there's more to that story, let me know. Am I able to do anything if the car ahead of me hits the gravel side of the road and cracks my windshield? If you have their license plate, if you can report them, that could be something that their insurance would be responsible for. Also, make sure you're not following too close, that you're so close that you pick up all the stuff they're throwing in the air. Granted, I've had windows taken out by cars and trucks in front of me, so I'm totally knowing that sometimes you can't prevent it, but do what you can. Create space, and if you have a dash cam, you might have sufficient evidence. However, if you don't, you're probably paying for it yourself. Great question. Is a motorcycle allowed in the HOV lane as a single rider? As of 2017, is it 2017 or 2012? Regardless, it is legal now on 400 series highways. They allow the access of single rider in the HOV. It's awesome. This is specific to the roads, the 400 series highways, HOV lanes. In the city, look for the signs, because while Don Mills permits it, some of the other ones don't. So check out the signs, make sure you're covered. But yeah, HOV lanes on 400 series highways are permitted. 2017 or 2007 or 2000, too many dates. It's 11 a.m. Thanks for the reminder. I got one more question here, then we'll do dad jokes and we'll say goodbye for the day. Question from Logic 101 is, I have a G1. Can I drive in another province if I have a G driver with the experience necessary? We talked about this yesterday. We talk about it on a regular basis. A G1 license is not a license. It's a learner's permit, and really it's only issued for use in the province of Ontario. If you go outside of the province of Ontario, it really isn't valid. They can choose to accept it or not, and that's because it doesn't really exist outside of the province. If you were to move there, they would make you apply for a learner's permit from that province, and that sort of goes to the fact that it doesn't exist outside. So my suggestion is that you don't. Learning to drive is something you do in the province of Ontario with a qualified driver, and not cross-country, not elsewhere. Do it here and do it nowhere else, because you're putting yourself at risk. So whether or not you get a ticket doesn't mean that the license is valid there. It really isn't. Let's see here. Dad jokes, because we lost our moderator. He's got to go. So this is dad joke number one from Akela Draconis. Why do we have Pop-Tarts but not Mom-Tarts? Because of the patriarchy. I like that. the patriarchy. That's very good. A mummy covered in chocolate and nuts has been discovered in Egypt. Archaeologists believe it might be a Ferrero Rocher. Ferrero Rocher. That's brilliant. Yep, I like that one. Star Wars dad joke. A Wookiee got a really bad haircut. He was infuriated. I like that too. You're doing well here today, sir. Kayla's got lots of good dad jokes. Oh, this is a repeat. I flagged this one twice. That's all the dad jokes. 2 dad jokes and a Star Wars dad jokes, and we're out. Listen, it is always a pleasure to spend time with you. I hope you got something good out of it. I didn't ask anybody earlier, but if you don't already follow us, please do. If you share this, if you subscribe, if you let others know of what we're doing, we can help more people. That's really what the goal of this show is. It's just to help people. So I will leave you with a recruiting video, even though we talked about recruiting. And yeah. Oh, somebody wants to know what I had for breakfast. I had a scoop of peanut butter. Yeah, it was a good scoop of peanut butter. That was it. I will catch y'all later. Ciao for now.
Your future career starts with a vision. A vision of opportunities ahead, where you can see a path to a noble career, serving the city of Toronto. Where do you see yourself? Toronto Police Service. Apply today.